The timestamp in the corner read 3:14 in the morning, and the camera was pointed directly at my front door, from across the street, from the exact angle of the oak tree I've looked at every single day for 6 years. I want to go back to 2 weeks before that night, because what happened on the TV only makes sense, or only becomes as horrifying as it actually is, if you understand what had been happening to me first. I live alone. I moved into this house after my divorce, a narrow 2-story on a quiet residential street, the kind of street where everyone has a dog and waves from the driveway, the kind of street that feels completely safe. The first thing I noticed, about 14 days before the TV, was a car. A dark-colored sedan, older model, parked directly across from my house for 3 nights in a row, not in front of any particular driveway, just parked. Running, sometimes. The exhaust visible in the cold air. I told myself it was a neighbor's guest. I told myself a lot of things in those 2 weeks. That is what you do when your instincts are sending up flares and your rational mind is trying to talk you out of it. The car was gone by the 4th day. I relaxed. That was the first mistake. A week later, I started sleeping badly. Not bad dreams exactly, just a feeling. The particular feeling of waking up at 2:33 in the morning and being absolutely certain that something outside had made a sound. I would lie in the dark and listen and hear nothing and eventually fall back under. But then, one morning, I found a muddy footprint on my porch. Just one. A large boot, treads facing the door, about 8 inches from my welcome mat, facing toward the door, not away from it. Someone had stood at my door in the night while I was sleeping 10 feet on the other side of it, and they had not knocked. They had just stood there. I called the non-emergency police line. An officer came out, looked around, wrote something in a notebook, and told me it was probably kids or someone checking the wrong address. He was kind about it. He didn't believe me, but he was kind. I started leaving my TV on when I went to bed, for the noise, not watching it, just the company of voices from another room. That is the only reason I know exactly what happened next. I was nearly asleep when the sound changed. The murmur of a late-night program cut out, replaced by silence. Then, after a few seconds, a low static hiss, the specific analog kind, like a signal looking for purchase, and then the hiss resolved into something quiet and crisp and completely still. Something about the quality of the silence woke me up more thoroughly than any alarm. I sat up. I looked through the bedroom door at the TV in the living room. I walked to it. The channel on screen had no name, no network bug in the corner, just a white timestamp, 3:14 a.m., and a night vision feed. And the thing on the feed was my house, my porch, my front door, filmed from across the street, from the oak tree. I stood there for probably 30 seconds before I was able to fully process what I was seeing. I kept waiting for it to cut, for it to be an ad, a segment on a home security commercial, something. It did not cut. The picture was steady, professionally steady, the kind of locked-off framing you only get from a mounted camera, not someone holding a phone. The resolution was good. I could read my own house number on the door. That was when I understood that whoever mounted that camera had done it carefully, deliberately. They had chosen a position with a perfect, unobstructed sightline to my door, and they had been sending a live feed of it to my television specifically. I should have called the police immediately. Instead, I did what I think anyone would actually do in that moment. I kept watching, because the picture moved. Not the camera. The camera was fixed. Something in the frame moved. At the edge of the shot, near the foot of my porch steps, a shape came into the bottom corner of the feed. Slow. Very slow and deliberate. Like someone who knew exactly where the frame's edge was. A figure. Tall. Wearing something dark. Moving up my porch steps, one at a time, in no hurry whatsoever. I was standing in my living room watching someone walk up to my front door on my television screen. Someone who was outside my house right now. I will tell you what I did and what I found out about this person, but follow first, because the next part is the one that still keeps me up at night, and what I discovered about the feed itself changes everything you think you understand about what I just described. I backed into the corner of the room, away from the door, away from the TV. I grabbed my phone from the couch. My hands were shaking badly enough that I misdialed twice. On the screen, the figure had reached the top of my porch. It stopped. It stood in front of my door, not touching it, not knocking, just standing, facing the door. The back of the head visible, dark hair or a dark hood, I couldn't tell. I could hear nothing from outside, not a creak, not a footstep, and my porch steps have always squeaked, the second one especially, ever since I moved in. I have meant to fix it for years, but I had heard nothing, no squeak from the second step, which meant either the person on my screen was not real, or the feed was not live. The emergency dispatcher picked up. I told her there was someone outside my house. She told me to stay inside and stay on the line. I did. I kept watching the TV. The figure on screen did not move. It stood at my door for 11 minutes. I know because I watched the timestamp, and then it stepped back, walked down the porch steps, and disappeared out of the bottom of the frame. 2 officers arrived 9 minutes later. They searched the yard, the porch, the street. They found nothing, no one, no car. One of them searched the oak tree, found the camera. It was small, matte black, and very well mounted. Professional hardware, the kind you could buy from a dozen different suppliers with no registration required. It had been up there long enough for the mounting bracket to have slight rust on it. Weeks, he estimated, maybe longer. They took the camera as evidence. They asked me if I knew who might have put it there. I did not. They asked me to come to the station the next morning. I did. What the technician found on the camera's internal storage took about 48 hours to work through. I got a call on a Thursday afternoon. The officer's voice was different from before, more careful. The camera had not only been transmitting, it had been recording. And it had been recording for 53 days. 53 days of footage of my front door, of me leaving for work, coming home, bringing in groceries, watering the plants on the porch on Sunday mornings. 53 days, which meant it had gone up before the car ever appeared. The car, the dark sedan I'd noticed, the first thing that had flagged something wrong to me. The car was already the second phase of something. Whatever this was, it had started almost 2 months earlier, in complete silence. But that is not the part that the officer's voice changed for. The footage confirmed that the figure on the night vision feed, the one I had watched standing at my door for 11 minutes, had been there. That part was real, the boots, the dark clothing, the slow walk up my steps. But the technician had also examined how my television received the transmission. The feed was broadcast on a frequency that piggybacked on a dead cable channel. It required a specific hardware modification to my cable box to make the channel appear and auto-switch at that time. It was not something that happened remotely. Someone had to have physically handled my cable box. That meant someone had been inside my house. Before any of this started, before the camera, before the car, inside this house, handling my equipment, setting this up from the inside. I sat in my car in the police station parking lot for a long time after that call, trying to account for every moment I had been out of the house in the past 3 months, every window I might have left unlocked, every time the back door had not caught properly and I had told myself it was fine. They never found out who it was. The camera hardware was untraceable, paid for in cash through an intermediary seller, the officer said. The footage of the figure at the door was clear enough to see build and height and gait, but never enough to see a face. Whoever it was knew where every camera was because they had placed every camera. I moved out 2 weeks later. A friend's couch for a month, then a new place. I did not tell anyone where I moved to. That should be where this ends. That should be the whole story. Last month, 3 in the morning, the TV in my new apartment switched input on its own. I was awake. I saw it happen. I told myself it was a power fluctuation, an automatic firmware update, anything. I did not get up to look, but I heard it. Even with my eyes closed and my hands over my ears and every light in the apartment off, I heard the specific, distinct squeak of my old porch, the second step, the one I never fixed, playing through my television speakers, crystal clear. The feed wasn't from outside my new apartment. It was still footage from the old house. The house I moved out of. The house where, on the recording, at 3 in the morning exactly 4 weeks ago, someone was still walking up those steps, still visiting. Even though I am gone, whatever they wanted, it was not to frighten me out of the house. They are still going there. They are still standing at that door. And somewhere, on a modified cable box I will never find, in an apartment I have never described to anyone, a channel without a name is still waiting to show me.